Hey everyone, how's it going? Back with another Tundra Talk, and all I gotta say is we must be doing something right here, seems like. This time we are joined by John Beale. John, if you don't know him, if you haven't had the chance to chat with him or go and swing in by his pit and get to have a conversation with the man, I think he's one of the more entertaining people inside our pit area. He has certainly become one of the people that we enjoy speaking with and enjoy having at all of our Tundra races. And this year he'll be splitting time with Dalton's Year. John, thanks for taking the time to join me. The first question I have for you here is obviously, you've raced in the icebreaker so far. How's the preparation gone from 2022 so far? And how'd you feel like it started off for you?
Had a great time at the Dells. Haven't raced there in a few years. Dalton's been doing most of the racing there, so excited to be back. Always been a fan of Dells Raceway Park. Qualified 10th out of 37 cars, so I was really happy about that. Not a good qualifier usually, so really happy with that. Struggled in the race on setup a little bit, so I came in and pitted and made some adjustments and went from 21st to 10th in however many laps. Had a mechanical issue at the end, but it was good to get the crew out and get everyone used to what's going on again and who does what. So a lot of speed there. We got a slinger coming up this weekend for Dalton in the 119 for the Midwest Tour race. So that'll be good. And issues getting parts, a lot of issues. I'll order something and they'll say they're out of stock and order it from someone else. And do you have it? And we'll put it in the carts at Motor State at the beginning of the day, and by the end of the day they're out of stock. So even having the website open and trying to buy stuff is an issue, but we're working through it, do the best we can. Dalton's been working real hard in the shop with the entire crew, so I'm happy with where we're at.
Yeah, it's interesting that, a lot of people talk tires, but it's not just tires that are in short supply. Engine building this year I heard was a bit of a hurdle. Did you guys experience that as well? How's that coming along? I've heard pistons are out, rods are out, rocker arms are out. Are they feeling the same heat? Have you seen that too?
Oh yeah, it's everything. I mean, even a half hour ago trying to get a radiator, anywhere from that a Hans device. Simpson doesn't have any Hans devices. I wanted to update that to helmet electronics. It's literally everything. The amount of time we spent on resourcing and sourcing stuff is quite a project.
And that leads me into asking the next question. Does that affect you as a race scheduling team as to who's going to race what and how many times you're going to race? Typically you and Dalton have had pretty busy seasons in the last couple of years, and I wouldn't say that you've necessarily scaled things down this year, but did the supply chain and the things like that have a bit of an effect on you guys when you decided to lay out your 2022?
Definitely not, because Dalton and myself both have the racing disease, and we booked 40 races this year. In the 16 years I've run this team, we've never even come close to that, maybe 20 something. And this year we're going for 40. So with running the whole Tundra series, splitting it half and half with Dalton and myself, and then he'll be running the ARCA Midwest Tour, red, white, and blue at your favorite track of Wisconsin International Raceway. I'll be running all the races at Plover, and then team driving with a crew guy, Ernie Schlew, up at Marshfield. So no, we aren't going to stop. We'll find something.
So when you were laying out the schedule, you took a look at the 6 races for the Tundra series and made your determinations on who was going to race what. I mean, obviously you're very good at Marshfield. You're very good at Plover. Dalton's had some success at Norway. Is that how you determined it, or were there a few that you were back and forth on? Which ones you guys decided you wanted to do, or how did that one play out?
I was going to run the whole thing, and then Tundra decided to announce they were going to Norway. And the minute that announcement came out, that changed a few things. Dalton's had a ton of success up there. I think he's the track record holder, obviously won a ton of races and championships. So once that came on, I don't think we'd get away with not taking him there. I probably wouldn't leave the pit area unharmed if I didn't show up with him in a car there.
Yeah, Dalton's an interesting character up there at Norway. I mean, he won the lone time that we went up there back in 2014, and I thought they were going to run him out of town because he had quite the race with Dan Lindsley. Did he tell you about that? Have there been stories about the Tundra race up at Norway?
I've seen it on YouTube, and very interesting. I've never been there until last year, which was a real shocker for a racetrack that close for me not to have been to. And went up there for the first time. I like the place. Dalton and I both race. Qualified fifth. I outqualified him, so he wasn't very happy about that. And won my dash and didn't do very well in the feature. But it is a very interesting place.
Yeah, I think who do we talk to? Andy Monday said it's like going back in time, and I think that is the absolute best way to describe that racetrack. Is like you're going back 70s, 80s in just all of the best ways possible. Did you feel that when you went there too?
The way I described it to everyone is it was like going to a cup race in 1950. The the stands were packed. The parking lot you couldn't even get out of. The pits were packed. Everyone was having a blast. But it is a trip back in time, way way back in time. But hospitality is top notch. I mean, the amount of people that thanked us for coming was incredible. So it's an interesting experience.
I want to talk a little bit more about your relationship with Dalton. Obviously, I think this is what now your third year together, correct?
We'll be going into our fourth year.
Okay, fourth year together. So three in the books. You got your CWRA championship. Dalton's had some success. I mean, he was clearly the fastest car at the following race last year toward the end. Just sort of ran out of laps. It seems like things are clicking with you guys. Did you feel like that was something that happened right away? I mean, obviously you knew Dalton, you guys had talked a few times before, or do you feel like you're really starting to ramp up your program now?
I think it's increasing at a higher rate now. Before him, my lone super late model win was a Tundra race at Jefferson, rain shortened. And before that, I never won a super late race. And then Dalton came in. And since he came in the 3 years, we've won 6 championships, 41 races, and 10 fast times. And I think we're one of the best teams in the Midwest. And he is really good with the setup deal. I really like having crew chiefs that are also racers. When we go test or I have any issues, if you're talking to a crew chief that doesn't race, it's a little bit harder for them to understand. And I really like having a crew chief that gets in the car and that can feel things and know what's going on.
I want to talk a little bit about your racing past too, because I grew up as a kid at the track, seeing that Gildan car, and I always thought it was the coolest thing that I could go there and get free T-shirts at like every race, which was just amazing to me as an 8, 9-year-old kid running around grabbing a free T-shirt with a race car on it. You guys have a very deep history. Your dad, Brian Hoppy, that team, Gildan as a sponsor, as part of your race program. Take us through it. Where was that transition from you being part of this team with your dad, with Brian Hoppy, to deciding that you wanted to be a part of it behind the wheel?
Well, it's an interesting story. Not many people know it, but my parents owned Star Motorsports. Brian Hoppy was the driver for them. That started out of Brian's parents' garage, and Brian wanted to get a car, and Brian's dad Gary and my dad went to high school together, so they teamed up, and it went from just like our race team here at Gildan Racing, went from absolute bottom to trying to be on the top. And I did every job there was at a race team to do, and I learned a ton out of that. But I wanted to race, and asked my dad to race for him, and he said no. So one night, racingonline.com used to be a forum, and a guy had a 4-cylinder for rent at Jefferson. It was $100 for the night. So I sent him a message, and he showed up after practice. So my first time ever competing in auto racing, no practice at all. shows up with not a real top-notch car. You know, if a car's for rent, it's usually not the best, especially back in those days. But went out there. That's back when we had consties. I didn't make the A main. I didn't make the B main. I was in the C main, and actually transferred, did good enough in the C to make it in the B, and had an absolute blast. And the funny thing is, I told no one I was racing because it's your first night. You're going to look horrible. So you invite no one. Funny thing is, my parents like to go to Jefferson a lot. So they're sitting in the stands. They have no clue I'm racing. Someone was there earlier, said they heard my name over the loudspeaker, and my parents are like, no, he doesn't race. And then after the heat race, my phone rang, and it was my mom. And she goes, "Where are you?" And you could hear the announcer over my phone and over her phone, so she knew I was there. And they're like, "Get up here! What are you doing?" So my dad didn't want me to race for him, and it was a really good decision because it makes you think in the car of what you're doing when you have to fix it and work on it and deal with it versus having a big team like my parents did. It taught me a lot of good lessons, and rented it for a couple of years, and then bought it for $650. Had an automatic transmission in it, the only 4-cylinder with an automatic transmission, and learned a lot.
All right. So the obvious question here is, what was the conversation like up in the grandstands? Is it vivid? Is it burned in your memory banks forever and ever? That conversation after you had to go and explain to your parents that you were inside that race car?
Well, the good thing is I started at an older age. It's not like I was a little kid, so I can do whatever I want. But it was just funny that they didn't know and no one else knew, and it was the one night they chose to go there and watch. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works out. It's almost like someone tattled on you or something. Probably didn't, but who knows exactly how that one worked out. So I remember a little bit of you. I think it was 2011 when I was announcing at Madison, and I think you had been racing in some of the support divisions there. But it didn't take you long to move up through the ranks once you did get out of that 4-cylinder, and I believe the next step for you was the truck series, correct?
So 2007 was my first year racing. And first of all, I never thought I'd ever be racing. So I never, ever thought I'd be a race car driver. And so there was no not today where you have these kids where it's like, get them in a super late, we're going cup. That's not how it was. It was you just go racing. So there was no big push or plan to get anywhere. So from 2007 to 2012, ran 4-cylinders. And then in 2013, contacted a guy named Casey Johnson, and he took me on a tour one night, and we looked at probably 15 race cars between different owners. He owned it. Bruce Lee owned it. Went to storage sheds. I mean, there were cars everywhere. And picked one out, and they dropped it off, and bought it complete minus engine. I mean, everything complete for $5,500, and put a brand new engine in there for 10 grand. So I was $15,500 into a complete limited late model, which nowadays is pretty hard to do. So then raced that at Columbus, my second night out ever in a limited late, won my heat race and my feature at Columbus 151 Speedway. And my cousin Brian Beale was also racing that night, and he won his heat race and his feature in the 4-cylinders. So between two of us, won 4 races, and we celebrated pretty good that night. So went from 4-cylinders to a limited late, and then in 2014 went in the Midwest Truck Series and won at MIS and Marshfield. Met a guy named Dalton Zier. He took me for some laps around Marshfield and showed me what to do. And I followed that up in fast time and winning the feature in the Truck Series. Ended up third in points. I ended up missing the Dells race and was third in points in the Truck Series.
Yeah, and then obviously a little bit more time in the late models with the Truck Series, and then moving to the super lates. And I remember your rookie season. You were, I want to call you kind of a super rookie that year because we hadn't had rookies who really competed at the level that you did in your rookie year when you finished third in points. How do you jump into the super late models and do that? I mean, I know a lot of it was the same car because we utilize the 5.3 engine, which you can take from the late model to the super late model very easily. But there's obviously got to be a bit of a learning curve. So how did you guys overcome that?
Yeah, I looked it up today. I actually finished second in points. I was rookie of the year. Got fast time at the Dells, and I finished second in points to a guy named Dalton Zier. And I didn't even remember that till I looked it up today. I was a ways behind in points, but that was interesting. Teamed up with Casey Johnson, and we had a really good testing program where we would go to the track and we would test like it's race day. So we do a couple sessions, like we're practicing, and then we do a mock qualifying run and a heat race, and then a feature run. And running like it's a race day, practicing like it's a race day, really set us up. So when we got there for race day, we'd already gone through it all and we knew what was going to happen. So teaming up with Casey, the notes he had, the experience he had, is why we're so successful.
For me, when I think about you before your time in a super late model, I had always known, John Beale and your cousin Brian, racing a lot, Columbus, but mostly Madison for me was kind of where I had known you from. So, when you contacted me, said you were coming racing, I'm like, oh, that's a John Beale who races at Madison. But despite that being your home track, your home area, you have really found yourself a niche, I would say, at Marshfield. It just seems to be your track. You won the track championship there. I know you had a lot of success at CWRA there as well. You won a lot of money and led a lot of laps, winning that big race. I believe that was last year or 2 years ago, sweeping. Which race was that again? You're gonna have to refresh my memory.
It was fall shootout.
Okay, the fall shootout. What is it about Marshfield that just suits you so well, or that you've found such a home in that place?
Honestly, I don't know. And the other weird part is a lot of it's just central Wisconsin, between Wausau and Plover and Marshfield. I don't have an answer for it, but the fall shootout race, we actually went home with 5 trophies that night. It was triple features, and we won every single one of the features. We got best appearing crew. We were overall champion. We missed fast time by like one 1,000th or something, but we had a crate engine in, so we didn't quite have as much power. But everyone makes fun of me for it, and I'm just happy it's there. So we're really good at that track, and I don't have an answer for it, but it suits my style.
It's such a unique track, really, when you think about it compared to other tracks, because you have Kaukauna, which is pretty similar to Madison, where it's very fast, and then you have to get on the binders really hard in 3 and 4, and it takes some break. Plover is obviously its own beast because it's a bit smaller, but Marshfield just kind of takes a little bit out of every racetrack, I feel. And it's got those big, long, sweeping turns. Do you ever just find yourself really, I know, with your crate engine and with your setups and things that you guys have been doing, that really is a good place for that kind of track because there's so much momentum. So do you find yourself setting yourself up for that when you guys go there, just to know that over the course of a longer race, that just keeping that momentum and keeping that pace is what's going to pay off as the race goes on?
Yep. Well, what I love most about Marshfield is there's passing lanes. There's literally 3 or 4 lanes you can go. 99% of the tracks are single file, 1 lane. So you have to move a guy. Unfortunately, what I love about Marshfield is you can go anywhere on the track, and that's what I enjoy the most. Some of these promoters try to get me to come race, and they're a distance away, and I'm like, I don't need to drive 4 or 5 hours to have to destroy a guy. So that's the best thing about Marshfield is the passing lane. There's tire fall off, like you were saying, Matt, which really plays into my driving style. I'm a long run driver. I'm not a short run driver. I don't know why. But the longer the race, the better it is. The more tire fall off, the better I am. And never been a good qualifier. And just like the longer races and where there's tire fall off. So that's what I like about Marshfield.
And another track that's just like that is Plover, right? And even Wausau to a certain extent, where it's really just about getting in a rhythm. Now, those are your 3 this season, correct?
Yep. I'm going to run Marshfield, Plover, and Wausau, and then Dalton will be at Kaukauna, Norway, and the Dells.
Okay. So let me ask you this: like, you set fast time at the Dells before, and you've seen some success here. What is that track meant to you over the years here? Because I know, well, let's rewind back to that year that you and Casey Johnson were racing for the championship, and you came. I think at one point you guys were tied for the championship if the checkered flag would have fell. That place has made for some interesting races in your career.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Dells. I actually like racing everywhere, but Dells is a lot of fun, and I shouldn't have had Casey in a car that year, I guess is how that turned out. But yeah, we finished 1-2 in points. I think I only ended up 2 positions behind them. And at one point, I wasn't even paying attention. I think, did we run double features that day?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So at the end of the first feature, I was actually right behind him, and the checkered flag flew, and I didn't even notice it. And the spotter didn't say anything. I ran into the back of Casey, my teammate, who were 1 and 2 in points in, and we go to tech after the first one, and Casey's old man is yelling at me. It's like I didn't hit him on purpose. My teammate running 1-2 in points. So Dells is a ton of fun. I'd like to run, all the races. I'm a big fan of the Tundra series and how economical it is. It's definitely the best racing out there. You can always make your money back. If you go to the banquet at the end of the year, I think this year you paid out $1,000, and you get your money back through points and through the payout after the races. So I like running them all, but we have to get Dalton up to Norway.
Yeah. Norway is going to be happy, but I'm sure they'd love to see you too. Any plan to go up there with them at all this year?
They want us to come up there for the state line, and I'd love to be up there every week, but 40 races is just, it's already too much. So we have to put a cap on it one way or another, and 40 was our number, and that's all we get.
So I remember, and I believe the year was 2017. I was working for Circle Track magazine, and suddenly Bristol decided that they wanted to have super late models at that racetrack. And just a very small sample of the people from around here decided to go. You were one of them. What was that experience like?
2017 was a bucket list year for me. We did Bristol, like you said. I went to Gateway. Never been on a track like that ever before. But that was a lot of fun. Raced a midget at Angel Park Speedway. Put Casey in the car for the All-American 400. So I don't know what was going through our head in 2017, but we did a bunch of crazy stuff. But Bristol's been my favorite racetrack ever. And for me to get a chance to race there, I took it. And it was crazy. They had a practice down there a couple weeks before. We weren't able to travel that far. We just had the dually and the 26-foot trailer. We weren't going to Bristol to test. And the crazy thing is there, when you leave pit road for practice, you're green. You don't go out and, warm up the tires and shake it down and get the one to go. You literally leave pit road and you go green. And I'm lined up next to Stephen Wallace and all these big names that have been there testing and know what they're doing. And I'm turning my first lap ever at Bristol under green. And a guy by the name of Bubba Wallace, you may have heard of, won that day. He lapped me 6 times. And I had an absolute blast. But I've never seen so many cars wrecked in one weekend. They wouldn't even take them back to the people's pits. They just had a graveyard. And they just dumped them all there, and people would chop off the front and or rear stub and put some dollies under it and load it in. Ended up making the race and finishing 19th, and it was a bucket list.
Yeah, I got to feel like getting a race car out of that racetrack was probably a major win for a lot of people. I remember Carson Hocevar, who I believe was just 14 at the time, had set fast time for the pro late race, and something happened. I must have missed it, but I came back to his pit area, and then literally the entire body was torn off of the car. And there were people picking at the parts like, hey, that fender is still good. I might be able to smash that door back out. Like, it was, you're absolutely right. That track was wild. I mean, the speeds and you have TJ, who obviously is with you and does excellent photography, excellent video work. He actually gave us an in-car camera for Circle Track and just showed what the car was doing at the track. I've got to ask, the G forces and those sorts of things, how different is that than anything you race around here?
Completely different. People were getting mouth guards because they were biting their teeth too hard. People were getting bloody noses. We were going faster than any of the NASCAR cars because our super lates are so much lighter, handle so much better, more newer technology, and people didn't expect it. But yeah, the in-car camera, the tires would just slide, really far over. My first laps, it was really loose, and Casey's like, how loose? And I'm not going to say the words on this public channel, but I made it crystal clear. It was too loose, and it was crazy, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a wild experience for a lot of us, and now they just toss dirt on it all the time. So, hey, whatever works. Pretty neat stuff. But so that's 2017. Then 2018, was the year that we discussed, where you came close to that Tundra Championship. But another part of that was your win at Jefferson, and obviously we love Jefferson. We want to go back to Jefferson. We got to make sure that we can find a date that works for everybody. Rain shortened or not, that has been the racetrack that has bid us on rain. Not just once, not just you, but Nick Benitsky, the first time we went there, won a rain shortened event too. So I remember, and if you watch the videos, you and Colin Slife had quite the battle raging there right before the rain came in. So take us through that. That's obviously a big one in your career, your first Tundra win. I got to believe probably one of your first super late model wins, if not your first. So that's certainly one for the memory banks, isn't it?
Yep. Nope. It was my first super late model win. And I got around Colin. Colin decided to try to make a move on me, 10 more laps on Victory Lane. He said he wanted to go 10 more in the rain. And I said, I'll do whatever you want to do. But big fan of Jefferson. And it's unique racing. And you get to pass there.
Yeah, it was a good time. So looking ahead, we talk about 2022. What are the goals for you and the team within Tundra, outside of Tundra? I mean, I look at what you guys have planned between you and Dalton, and you're playing to your strengths, quite frankly. I mean, you're very strong at the 3 tracks you're going to. He's very strong at the 3 tracks he's going to. I mean, you're both strong at a lot of tracks. Is this the first year that Tundra sees a team titleist?
It'd be cool to happen. Our goal is this is all we do. This is all we live for is racing. There is nothing else. And our goal is to win every race and win as many races as we can and have as much fun while we do it. So goal is every week, be as fast as we can. I think it could happen. Obviously there's a lot of stuff you need to work throughout the year to make it happen, but I think the attempt will be there.
And just going through your schedule this year, is there anything really new, exciting, different that you personally, not just Dalton, but you personally added to your schedule this year that is maybe something that you haven't done yet or something you've always wanted to do? You said 2017 was your bucket list year. Is there a bucket list item for 2022?
No, we kind of scaled back, a little bit this year, staying more local. I asked Dalton what he wanted to race, and he really wanted to get back to Kaukauna and do the red, white, and blue and run the tour. So I moved my schedule around what he wanted to do, and that's how he ended up team driving at Marshfield with Ernie Schlew, because a lot of those races we were running other series, and Plover works out good for Friday nights. Most of the big races are on Saturday nights, so I was able to go to Plover. So nothing really new this year. We just kind of pulled back a little bit, not doing the Snowball or All American 400 or Toledo or anything big like that. We're doing more quantity, local stuff, and trying to get some quantity in. So no bucket list stuff this year, but I don't need a big race. I don't need a big track. I'll go race lawnmower, out back behind the shop here. It's I'll race any track any day and have fun doing it. So no bucket list stuff this year.
When you mentioned quantity, obviously a big part of that is not just you and Dalton, but it's that entire team that you guys have built there at your shop for your program. And one of the things I've really enjoyed watching over the last couple of years with Dalton joining your team is it wasn't just Dalton. It was a lot of people that had worked with Dalton in the past. How has that come together for you guys? I mean, right, it just feels natural when I see you all working in the pit area, like you guys have been doing it for years, not like there were two different teams that melded together, but I mean, essentially that's what happened.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy with it. I had a whole speech plan for the Dells, for the crew of like, make sure you do this and that. And honestly, we rolled in. Everyone knew what to do to unload, to prep the pits, to get through tech, to practice. It was 100% seamless. And I never even ended up giving the speech because everyone just did what they needed to do. And we're at that stage now where everyone knows, and the race want to come in for an adjustment at the Dells, and Dalton's up in the spotter stand, and the rest of the crew knew exactly what to do and gave me the right adjustment and passed a lot of cars with it. So I'm extremely happy with the crew. The effort they put in, I don't even need to ask them to do stuff here. They'll show up at the shop and start working on stuff under their own efforts. So I'm extremely happy with the entire crew.
My final question is one that I've unfortunately strayed away from a lot of people, and I don't know why. It's just something that I did, but I want to bring it back now. When John Beale is not racing and he's trying to do something to have a good time, what's John Beale doing? Pardon the third person talk. It just happens that way sometimes.
Gotcha. Well, we do a lot of team building exercises, we call them. So try to go have fun. Like the next one we're planning, F1 announced they're doing a street race in Vegas, and you put the first F1 race going down Las Vegas Boulevard. Turn that in, with everything Vegas offers. I'm like, we got to do it. So always try to get the crew together. If we're not racing, we're in the shop. And then once we're done with the shop for the day, we always go out. We hang out as a team 24/7. I was hanging out with them last night at the bowling alley, and we're always together. We spend a lot of time together. When we get back from the racetrack, we always go out to eat. And there is no number two to answer your question, but the number two thing we do is we just all hang out together.
That sounds good. And if you need a tag along for that F1 race in Vegas, I'm 100% there. Just calling that right now. That's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah. The minute I heard it, I was on it right away. So asked all the crew guys if they wanted to go, and everyone said they're in, and they haven't announced a date yet. They said November of 2023. The rumor is the first or the third weekend of that. And I think they're repaving all the streets out there to make them smooth and building bridges for traffic in and out of the casinos. And I just think it's going to be, besides a Tundra race, that's number two to anything.
Love the flattery. Much appreciated. I do got to say this, though. You pair that up with SEMA, holy cow, that would be incredible.
Yeah, Dalton mentioned that. I looked up SEMA, and if it hits that same weekend, which I don't know if it will or not, but you got SEMA, see what's going on at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and you just have, all of Vegas. So I think it would be fun.
Yeah, going to be an incredible time. John, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We're obviously looking forward to seeing you at Great Lakes Testing Round 1. You'll be in the pit area, but then we'll see you at Marshfield for the Bev, where you finished third last year. So we're definitely going to hold you in contention for that one, figuring that you're going to be one of the guys there. And we'll see what you and Dalton have up your sleeves this year. It's going to be fun to watch you guys team up.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Excited about race season, ready for it to get going here, and should be a fun year in Tundra.
All right, John Beale. He unfortunately will not be part of Great Lakes Testing Round on at Wisconsin International Raceway coming up on May 14th, but June 11th is the Bev Ashenbrenner Memorial at Marshfield, and you will see him there along with 2 other Tundra races, and he will be team driving with Dalton Zier. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.